And we're live.
We are indeed live. Saints fans, welcome back to another edition of Saints TV Live. I hope you are doing well, despite, the torture that we all endured, well, that most of us endured on Sunday. Despite the loss, I hope you all had a happy Mother's Day and got to celebrate it with, your loved ones. And for those who weren't able to celebrate Mother's Day, we were thinking of you and hope you're able to take some enjoyment out of the day still. Max, how you doing?
Yeah, doing great. It was a good Mother's Day. I actually had a Mother's Day lunch, so I wasn't at RSCA Park, and I also wasn't able to watch the game. Granted, I don't think I would have wanted to put my eyes to that. So anyway, good weekend, and hopefully we're able to get over the horrible loss on the weekend with a good chat tonight.
Yeah, right. It was a bit like a car crash on the weekend. You couldn't take your eyes off it if you were watching. Um, but we'll get into a bit about that, I suppose. Did you want to mention maybe the Bentley Social on Sunday, Max?
Yep. So moving back to the Bentley Social, not RSCA Park this week, we are 3 p.m. I believe we're kicking things off. We're kicking off the festivities. Should be there. I should be anyway. Great atmosphere. We've done it a few times now. This is obviously the second time we're there this year, and everything apparently from the Moorabbin Social on the weekend went according to plan and was an awesome day out. So yeah, everyone get down to the Bentley Social 3 p.m. this Sunday.
All went according to plan, except maybe the result, perhaps. But hopefully we move from that game and go better against the Giants. Now, we've also got some AFLW news, I believe. Max has got the inside scoop on this one, perhaps.
Maybe not the inside scoop, but signing of Jessie Wardlaw. She is an All-Australian key forward, leading goal kicker in 2022 and a premiership player in 2021. She's only 23 years old and has just signed with St Kilda Women's Football Club. So yeah, very exciting there. And as I just said before, she is only 23 years old, so hopefully she's able to stick out most of her career down at the Saints. So more than happy for Jessie to come down and be a Sainer.
Now, excuse my ignorance on this one, Max, but is there any relation to North Melbourne draftee George Wardlaw?
It's a good question. I'm not sure. That's something that maybe hopefully you Sainers know, or if anyone can quickly look it up and throw it in the comment section, that'd be awesome. But yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, a little fun fact for all the Sainers out there, I actually played George Wardlaw in under-13s B-grade Sunday cricket and managed to bowl him out. So, there's a bit of tidbit trivia for you. But enough about the Kangas. Let's talk about the Crows. Won't spend too much time on this, given, the podcast covered it pretty well. And also, I don't really want to be perfectly honest. I'm sure many of you don't really want to revisit it. But Max, you had a Mother's Day lunch, so you didn't get to watch it. I'd imagine you'd just be checking the scores periodically throughout. But
Yes.
one thing the Crows did quite well was stopped our transition game from halfback. And that was a key theme also in the North Melbourne game. I was a bit worried about that heading into it, and it did eventuate. But the one thing that I didn't really predict that the Crom did really well was that they didn't really allow us to move the ball along the boundary line like we usually do. They really stifled our ball movement, and that was really concerning. And what we need to improve on, I guess, not letting that happen again. I suppose our toughness. Spoke about it on the podcast. Jake and Joycey and Marshy mentioned that you need to put in 100% and lay a few more tackles like we have been doing so often in past weeks. So just that bit of intensity and effort, but also efficiency delivering inside 50. That seems to be a key theme for us that we need to work on during the year. We had a lot of clearances. I'm not sure of the clearance count, but I know that we only had 4 less inside 50s than Adelaide, and yet we still got our ass handed to us. So something that needs to be worked on definitely is efficiency going inside 50.
Yeah, Jordan, just especially maybe talking about the forwards. We spoke about him last week, and we 100% backed this player in. He's Tim Bembry. What do you think of his game on the weekend? I listened to the podcast today, and Joyce's dad, I think it was, he mentioned that Tim Bembry moved to the wing under the Ross Lyon coaching era. What do what do you think of his game on the weekend?
Look, I thought it probably wasn't. I thought it was a bit of an improvement from recent weeks, but I think it's still the jury's still out on him. We gave him the benefit of the doubt, like you said last week, with how he played. And coming back from injury and being the number one banana, so to speak, as Marshy would put it. But yeah, I think it's probably time, and he's already unfortunately got that concussion, so it might have taken him, done the damage itself. That was poor choice of words. Done damage in removing him from the selection committee, removing that dilemma. So I think probably I also would probably put him down at Sandy this week. Tim's a fantastic player. I don't want people to feel like we're picking on him, or that generally he's being picked on. Every player has their downfalls, but I hope Tim can recover some form. Moving to the wing, I think it would be good to get his hands on the pill a bit more. Our delivery inside 50 is also not fantastic, so that's not really helping Tim. But move to the wing, I could see that happening, and I think I would be in favour of it. But I think some time at Sandy, after he comes back from his 12-day break, is probably needed.
Yeah, I think you're right, Jordan. He's moving to a different stage in his career. He's no longer that pronged key forward. He's, as we said, when we get the likes of King back, maybe Jack Hayes to support, or even Caminiti, he's been looking really. I'm loving the way Caminiti's playing right now. He attacks the footy so ferociously. You've got maybe Membry as that third tool. Is there better use for him playing on the wing as opposed to being that third key forward? I don't know, up to discussion, but I think going into the direction of more of a runner, more of that re-roll role that they said on the podcast, definitely is something that we can experiment with, and it also gives the likes of Mason Wood maybe some breathing room where he might be able to float forward a little bit. I don't know, maybe Machito Owens maybe get some more forward time at a full strength Saints team, or whatever it have be. But I think Tim Membry is moving into a different stage of his career, and now it's about molding him to that next evolution of his playing style.
Yeah, I've just had a thought, Max, about moving him to the wing. We've got another player that's currently, in the St Kilda hospital at the moment, of Dan McKenzie, who has found a home on the wing. Do you reckon that will? Well, should we prioritise Dan when he comes back, or do you think we should play Membry above Dan on the wing and move Dan somewhere else?
Look, I think you've got to learn how to play on the wing. It's one of the hardest roles in footy with the high half forward role. I think you maybe prioritise Dan McKenzie, as he has had experience in that role before and whatnot. But maybe it's something that the coaching staff looks at during the off season as they may rejig the positions a bit with a full off season of Ross Lyon and co.
Kenny disagrees. He's never been on number one or number two forward. He's a big half forward flanker who can also help out on the attacking side of wing. So it looks like Kenny's in favour of a move to the wing for Timmy Membry. The reason that most of us have gathered here tonight is probably because of our special guest. It's not Max and myself, obviously. A man who needs no introduction, but we'll probably get one from Max anyway.
I'll get the special call up again. Rightio. This man has played 200 games for St Kilda, kicked 247 goals, and has an AFL Rising Star in 2001. Justin Koschitzke, welcome to the stream.
G'day, boys. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. We may get this kick started with what have you been up to post footy life?
Oh, mate, where do I start? It's been 10 years. 2013, so it's 10 years since I played. I've had a go at most things, but most importantly, back at the Saints now, and having a big role in the Danny Frawley Centre, and what a legacy, Spud's tragedy, which we obviously all wish didn't happen, but, the legacy that Spud left, and Anita and his daughters and the footy club have created this, mental health and wellness centre, which has really warms my heart. It's given me purpose, and yeah, we're there to make a difference now.
Yep. Justin, just on that, obviously it's a tragic thing that happened with Spud, and we congratulate you for doing your work with the Danny Frawley Centre. I'm sure that's very rewarding. Are there any memories you have of meeting Spud at all during your career or post footy?
Yeah, obviously Spud had retired when I came on board, and then he came back as a defensive coach, but I'd retired, so I never had any footy relations with him. But obviously a huge figure in our club, and met him at a lot of functions, and spent time with him, got to have a beer with him every now and then. He was just such a big figure and a likable guy. So very fond memories. He was always the red, white, and black, and he personified work ethic and mateship, and what our club was based on. So very special memories, and it's such an honour now to be working with Chelsea, his daughter, and Danielle, and Keely's back in Australia at the moment, and getting to know his wife, Anita, and what he stood for is just it's an amazing thing.
Yeah, thank you for doing all the work with St Kilda and the Danny Frawley Centre, taking on that next evolution of St Kilda down at Linton Street. We'd just like to get your thoughts on what the shift in the AFL rules, I guess, to more protecting players' heads in the sling tackles and all that sort of stuff. We know you sort of battled with concussions throughout your career. Do you like the direction the AFL's gone in to protect players?
I definitely do, and it definitely has to happen because the consequences are catastrophic. And I've dealt with that firsthand, and know what repeated head knocks can do to your mental health. And we obviously, if Spud's legacy is anything, it's that he had CTE with his post-mortem diagnosis, I guess. So the research is becoming fast-tracked, and the AFL is doing the right thing now and changing the rules. And some traditionalists of the game might disagree with it, but they're certainly doing the right thing with the sling tackles and being all over it. So there's going to be, it's a contact sport, and there's going to be the incidentals, but if you can avoid it, with any malice, I think it's definitely going in the right direction.
Yeah. Justin. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
We saw Timmy Membry, have a bad incident. It made me feel sick when Timmy hit the ground the other day, and see what he did. But that just can't be helped. That's a part of our game, and he showed courage. He went back with a flight, and that's the sort of person he is, and that's just innocuous, and he can't be helped. And that's going to be a part of our sport. But now that the protocols are in place, and he's going to be looked after, and hopefully he can come back and everything's okay.
Yep. Is there, obviously, it's a good direction the AFL's heading in. It seems to be a lot of cultural change around the head knocks. There are still, the occasional people who, like you said, traditionalists of the game who don't support the mandatory 12-day break. Is there any insight you can give, like any personal experience to really show that, it's really important to take at least a 12-day off?
Oh, no, look, mate, if anyone doesn't support the 12-day or an extended layoff, are just ignorant, really. And I get where they're coming from, because it was a badge of honour to get knocked out and go back on probably that day, and I was guilty of it. I used to, after my big hit in 2006, small innocuous knocks would send my eyes, and I'd memory loss, and there's times I can't remember driving home from the game or whatever happened. But I think they don't understand, if they're going to knock it, they don't understand the ramifications of later on. And it's a degenerative disease, the CTE, and what people are finding. And I think that has to be listened to. But I get where they're coming from, and it's going in the right direction to be able to look after the current day players.
Yeah, 100% agree on that. As you've seen, especially in America with the lawsuit cases that the NFL is facing with not protecting their players from from concussion. I can only see the AFL coming under scrutiny more and more as more players start to retire. On a lighter note, though, what is your thoughts on the current St Kilda side as of right now?
Well, you've got to be reasonably happy, don't you?
Yeah.
Compared to where we finished off last year, and obviously I'm a big supporter of Ross. He was a huge mentor in my life and the teams that I played in. I think he's got a process, and obviously Sunday didn't go the way we would have hoped, but at the end of the day, it's a young list. There's a lot of stars out. I think they need to cut him some slack. I know it's he'll be working on anytime, anywhere. We need to show it with some effort. But, they went into state. Adelaide are going better than I think we realised, Collingwood by a point they lost, and at home they're always going to be hard to beat. They grow an extra leg. So wouldn't be too disappointed. Our list, there's a lot of young kids that probably haven't experienced that sort of heat in the game, and they'll only learn from it. So, the old adage, you can win and go backwards, or you can lose and go forwards. And, I'm of that ilk. And I think they'll have the game review tomorrow, and they'll take some really big learnings in that, or out of that game. They'll highlight a lot of efforts. They'll highlight a lot of what's happened. And knowing Ross, that he'll put in a positive spin and wind the boys up. And I know he coaches on effort. And that's what, we hope the supporters can see every week is a great effort. And that might not have been there on Sunday, but over the course of the season, I think you'll see that.
Yeah, you just mentioned coaching towards effort. What do you think's different about this time, Ross, at St Kilda versus back when you were there? Has he moulded his game plan, maybe his way of talking to the players? What's a bit different this time around?
No, nothing. No, Ross is he's a very strategic coach. As I said it before, he coaches on effort. He wants everyone to buy in. He's not going to cook anyone for making fundamental mistakes. You know the game plan, but it's a game of two sides, right? Every week, and you've got an opposition, so you're going to make mistakes. But as long as the effort's there and the buy-in to the process, which I think we've seen for the whole of the year, bar some probably patches on Sunday. I think Ross has evolved as a person and a coach, like everybody does. I think he's embracing the members and the fans and the club a little better than he used to, and I think he'd admit that. But behind closed doors, he's still the same guy, and he's still the same professional, relentless, methodical, passionate coach that, as a player, you know what you're going to get. And, if you give him 100%, he's going to back you the whole way. So that's the aura he's got, and I think you can see it.
Yep. Justin, I want to ask a question to Bakes last week, but he wasn't able to. Well, I figured it probably wasn't the best question to ask, given he admitted he hasn't watched the Saints as much as he would have liked this year. He's found himself unsure of a couple of players' names, he admitted. It seems like you've watched.
Bakes didn't know some of the players he used to play against, so I'm
Fair shout. It's clearly, you're a reasonable fan of, big fan of the team, and seem to have watched every game. Who's your favourite player to watch at the moment? Who excites you the most?
Rowe Marshall. I think he's our most important player. He put the work in, right? There's no secret that good players train hard, and he was able to put a big pre-season in. He's fit. He's running on top of the ground. He's dominant big man. So I'm really loving, and I've got a soft spot for the big guys. Obviously been playing that position and the forward ruck, and know how difficult it is at times. So I'm really enjoying watching Rowe. I'm excited to see Kingy come back, and hope nobody puts too much pressure on him. He's, at the end of the day, he's still a young man. He's still learning his craft. He's still getting to know it. And then I think he'll only blossom under this regime that the new coaches have got. Everyone's been excited by young Caminiti. He's raw. He's got a bit of hair going about him. Like you saw him get suspended. No one likes to get suspended, but he's not going to take any shit. So I like that about him. So I've always got a soft spot for those guys. I love seeing Timmy Memory back. Like, he's been the heart and soul of the place. I know you guys gave him a bit of a shit can before, but he's at the end of the day, you got to. I get that you guys are passionate supporters, but understand that he's had some injury issues. He's had no continuity in his build-up, and he's only going to get better. He's very professional sort of person, and hopefully he can get over this concussion and come back and add something to the team. So I'll always enjoy watching those players.
Yeah, you mentioned, Cozzy, that no one likes to be suspended. I have a sneaky suspicion that your mate Bakes might have, wanted to get suspended at some point or another with some of his actions. Maybe not for as long as, he wanted to, but, I'm sure there was a bit of bravado in what he did.
Well, I don't think he wanted to get suspended. Like, he was the ultimate team man, Bakes. Like, if you were picking someone first and you wanted to go to war with him, Steve Baker's the man you want, and he did everything that you asked for him to win, and he tipped the edge, but he played on the cliff, and we loved him for it, and the consequences were that he got suspended a couple of times. But, the testament was that he got suspended and he had no game preparation, and he was picked for the 2010 grand final, and he came in because he knew he was going to do the job. So, if you look up relentless, hard and tough in the dictionary, there's a picture of Steve Baker.
Yeah, tend to agree with you after, watching him as a kid, and from the interview last week as well, also seemed to get that vibe.
How old are you guys? Can you ever remember that? Like, that's like 15 years ago.
Oh, we're 19. We're big for we spoke about it before, Max and I, off air, that we would try not to fanboy over you just because, you were someone that we watched as a kid growing up. So we definitely remember your best years.
Well, you know why you're fanboying? Because you weren't old enough to pick the flaws in our game now like you do with the current boys.
Yeah, I think you're right on that.
That's a good point there. All right. Well, just before we jump over to trivia, Justin, what was the best game you've ever played in?
The best game, like obviously the draw, the grand final, 2010 was, mate. That was an epic war of attrition, really. 101,000 people at the MCG, and probably Collingwood was the best team that year. We snuck into the four, and just through work ethic, we got a chance to play in the grand final, and pure determination off coming from 09 and losing it, and the sting and the hurt that caused, for a group to rally and get there. Be 20, I can't remember, 20 odd points down at half time, and basically staring at back-to-back grand final defeats, and to rally at half time, and the crowd be on their feet, and to be a part of history, basically, and to hear the siren go, as devastating as it was, but to hear a pin drop in the Coliseum, that's the MCG, on that day was, it was a process at the time, a mental process, but looking back on it, without getting the chocolates the next week, I'm really proud and really fortunate enough to play in a game like that.
Sorry, Jordan, are you going to take the lead on that one?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was going to say, sorry, Max, I thought you had it. But yeah, no, that's a really mature answer, Cozzy. Very impressed. I wouldn't have expected you to pick, the 2010 grand final after, what happened the next week.
Next week, the replay, that can jog on. But to play in the draw, like, it was huge. Like, we had injured players, and, Lenny wins and Norm Smith, and my memories of it is that, Michael Gardner did his hammy in the first before half time, and we didn't take a second ruckman in, and I talk about, like, I was sort of the next in line, and come to half time, and Rossi said, "Mate, you're going to have to go and play in the ruck because Gardy's gone." And the benefit of that was me getting first hand or front row seat to watch Lenny and the boys go about in the midfield. Like, Lenny broke his voice box. He couldn't speak. Like, the pain he would have been in, and for him just to put, and ruin, but the whole team, it was like minute by minute, let's just chip away into that back into the game. And, we hit the front, and the feeling of that, and, the crowd going, and we didn't get the result, but looking back on it, really proud to be a part of it, and to watch those guys on that day did what they did. And, it's folklore, right? We didn't get it done, but what a day.
Yeah, just on that, we asked Bakes this as well. What was that feeling when the siren goes? Obviously, it's a draw. What was, I guess, the initial sort of voice in your head telling you?
I was trying to catch a breath. I think for the first part, like it was so hectic and so intense. It was, your head spinning and what's going on. And I think it was like, what the hell? It's a draw, and then you're trying to calculate like, shit, it's a grand. No one expects a draw, right? We expected to go out and win it or lose it or whatever's going to happen. You're going to be one side or the other, but you're thinking, oh shit, I think we're going to have to come back next week. I think that's what they do. And then there's this little part of you goes, oh, surely they make sense and we just play on and get it done now. And they've changed the rules, and how amazing would it have been to do that? Like 100,000 people standing on their feet, two sides with the adrenaline high, going hard, however many million people on TV watching it. Like, what an epic finale it would have been just to keep going. And the AFL rightly have rectified that. And if we have a draw in the future, what a spectacle it's going to be. But it was a weird sensation and a process that we had to go through to try and get up again the next week.
Mm. All right. And sorry, Jordan. I think on that note, we might throw it to a bit of trivia. How does that sound, Cozzy?
Righto. We'll see how we go.
Look, I think if you get 2 questions right, that's more than Bakes did. So anything's almost better than that.
Righto.
We'll kick it off with maybe a little easier and progressively get harder. What was your most goals in a game?
My most goals?
Your most goals?
5.
Tiny bit higher.
6. Did I kick 6?
Kick 6 in 2009 against North Melbourne.
Against Scotty Thompson, I knew that, but I was just taking a piss.
We'll give you the benefit of the doubt, Cozzy. But how about your most disposals in a game?
Oh, I don't reckon I would have cracked 20 many times. Maybe 22 or 23.
Bang on, 23. Jeez, yeah, pretty close. Yeah, 23. Did that round 15 against Carlton in 2005.
Okay.
Yeah, we're moving on to getting a bit harder now. Most bounces you took in a game?
Oh. Joey and I were actually watching the footy a couple of weeks ago, and I said to myself, I don't reckon I took 3 bounces in my career. So Joey, being the stats man he is and the footy analogist, whatever, footy encyclopedia, I think he Googled it, but he goes, I reckon you took about 30. And I'm like, whatever. I reckon it was about 30, 31.
30 bounces?
Yeah, in my career.
Oh, sorry, we just mean in a game.
Oh, in a game. I don't know, 2. I might have actually got excited and ran 10 metres and bounced it twice in 10 metres.
According to our research, 4, and again that was against Carlton, but in 2003.
Okay. Carlton were the bunny team by the look of it.
Carlton were the bunny team for most teams back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And maybe even now. Justin, where do you know where you rank first St Kilda on all time in terms of games played and goals kicked?
No idea, mate. Actually, no idea.
So, look, put it this way: there's been about 35 odd to break 200 or get close to 200. So, I guess that would give you hopefully some sort of indication.
I reckon I'll pick 35.
Little bit lower.
What do you mean? If there's 35 played 200 and I played 200,
roughly 200.
I don't know. You tell me.
31 you are in games played, and then 16th most in goals kicked.
Okay.
And then the last one would be who's the team that you were most successful against?
As in stats or wins, or what are you gaining success?
As in wins, and you only played them 3 times, got 3 wins.
3 times. Be one of the late coming clubs, would it? If we only played them 3 times.
They are Victoria.
50-50 chance here, Justin.
Would be the Suns.
Was the Suns. Yep.
Now, a bit harder one. Other than the expansion teams, what was the most successful team that you had against? Well, yeah, who did you win the most games against?
Carlton.
No, there was another Victoria club. It was the Doggies. 12 wins, a draw, and 4 losses.
Okay.
Well, you know what? I'll count that better than what Bakes did because he couldn't answer any questions that we.
What were his questions? How many weeks he got suspended, or?
No, his questions were very similar to yours. Most disposals. I think we did most bounces, most tackles, sort of that sort of thing. Yeah. He said if we did ask him about his suspensions, he would have got all of them right, though. So hopefully, when we get him back on the show, he'll get a few more right. Now, if it's all right with you, we might throw it to some of the Sainers to ask a few questions. Sainers, comment your questions down below, and we'll get this kick started off with. Or Dale wants to know what Malcolm Blight was like as a coach.
Good question. The honest answer is I don't really know, because it was my first year, 18-year-old kid, and he came in, and I think the aura of him being the Messiah and this amazing coach, I was in awe of everybody, right? So I didn't understand what a senior coach was going to be like and what they needed to be. So my head was spinning, really, and I think it was only 14 or 15 games the first year. So I really didn't have a lot to do with him. Not like the senior guys that have been around a little while. But, it was a great memory to walk in and go, Malcolm Blight's your first senior coach. He didn't really say a lot to me, to be honest. I understand now that he wasn't around much. He'd only rock up for a couple of trainings, and, he had a pretty good golf regime. And it was only then when Tomo came and was so invested in the group and there every single minute of the day and first there and last to leave, I actually remember Blighty, maybe my first meeting was I went into his office and he didn't have a computer. He didn't have anything. I don't think he had a notepad. It was just a bare desk, and he just sat down and talked to you. Like, I'm thinking, okay, is this what a senior coach does, or is it like? But it was a bizarre feeling, but obviously didn't have too much of an impact.
Yep, fair enough. Only limited time that you got to experience under him, and at such a young age as well, and early into career. Cozzy, Johnny's wanting to know what your best G-Train story is.
Yeah, wow. Probably not one I can tell on here.
What's your best PG rated G-Train story?
Well, look, there's a lot. I'll just sum it up, really, that Fraser's the most generous, kind, giving person you'll ever meet in your life. And we had a special bond because he was from Wodonga, even though he was at West Coast for 6 or 7 years before he came to the Saints. We came at the same time, and he was already in his mid-20s, and he'd sort of learnt from the culture and the era of the Eagles 90s. So he came in, and I'm really fortunate to have him and Aaron Hamill as my first real mentors. And geographically, we were connected coming from the Albury-Wodonga region. And he taught me how to train, how to prepare really as an AFL footballer, and how to, like, I had a great upbringing. I had great moral parents and whatever, but Fraser taught me how to interact with people, I think, and give back and be show a bit of gratitude. But I guess, you know, Fraser took Rue and I to Bali our first year, the end of the first year. I think this is what you're aiming at. But, yeah, he'd been there a few times, and I remember him saying, "Have you got a passport?" I said, "No, mate. I just come off the farm. I've come to Melbourne. Like, I haven't even gone out of New South Wales or Victoria." So season's finished, and he drove me into the embassy in the city and got me a passport. And I think he paid the extra. Like, that's the sort of thing Fraser does. I think he just put the credit card over to get a passport that day, and off we went to Bali. And you know, that was a good experience for a young kid, first time overseas, to be in the Sari Club with Fraser Garrick and learn a few tools of the trade.
Oh, that's an awesome
story.
His name was Jimbo, and so Fraser had organised him to be the sightseer of Bali for the week and show us around and whatever. And he had an old clapped out white Mitsubishi Pajero, and Fraser, I think, met him the night before or whatever. He said, "Mate, be at the motel at 8 o'clock in the morning. He's going to drive us around." And all of a sudden, Jimbo, he used to rock up at 8 o'clock, and we were all, I don't know if we went to bed, but we probably didn't. We rocked up, got in the car, and he's taken us somewhere, I don't know, to a bar or whatever. And Fraser's like, "Oh, do you want something to eat, Jim? Do you want some food, and do you want some beers?" And, you know, Fraser's giving him a few beers, and old Jim's had about 4 beers, and he's out cold. Chucked him in the back of the car, and Fraser took the mantle and started steering the ship around. So that was a pretty good opener for a kid.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I could only imagine what it would be like being 18 or 19 and G-Train being your tour guide in Bali. Kyle wants to know, what was Grant Thomas's influence on your career?
Well, wow, what was an influence on your career? Like, he was my real first senior coach and mentor, and a real father figure to our club. He recruited, you know, he had top draft picks at his disposal, but he recruited some real solid characters and set the culture up for our club for the next 10 years. But I think the biggest influence that Grant gave us is that he gave us experience. He gave us worldwide experiences as men. He wanted us to grow really quickly. And his foresight was that, you know, be a good person, be involved in the community. We'll show you some worldwide experiences, and learn from a coach's perspective. I think his access that he gave players into the coach's box and into the inner sanctum to see the game from the other side was a real learning, a quick learning tool for a lot of us. The other stuff I think Grant did was, you know, he basically invented the community camp. He took us to Warrnambool in 2001 and got us amongst the community, got us out of the bubble, I guess, of the AFL footy and the entitlement that some guys would have felt as young men, and said, you know, you're part of the world, you're part of the community, you've got a great position to be privileged and do your best. But he took us to Warrnambool. He knocked footy trips on the head. He said, well, you know, why would you go and celebrate mediocrity when you finish on the bottom half of the ladder? So, you know, his compromise was to take us to London on a training camp. He introduced us to some amazing athletes, some amazing experiences. You know, I was 20 years old, and they sent us over London and said, well, you're orienteering, you need to see this, and this. And, you know, from a kid from the bush that had hardly ever seen Melbourne to be in London in my second year, trying to find my way around and do this sort of stuff is real experiences that you'll look back on and hold for the rest of your life. You know, he took us to South Africa, he took us to China and training camps, and I think he grew the group, gave us maturity beyond our years, and you saw that success, you know, prelims 03, 04, and then, you know, the group had been together for a long time, and Ross got to inherit that group and then add to it. So that 10-year period was all probably built on what Tomo did for us as kids.
Yeah, nice. No, it's a good insight into GT as a coach, and, you know, how he's able to mould your maturity and attitude towards not just the game, but also in life. This one seems to be a bit of a long question, Justin. Sorry. Bet's basically wanting to know what she can do to get behind what we can do to get behind the well-being of players at the club.
Okay, I'm reading it. I can see it. The cause of get behind the support and the commands of the health and the well-being, hugely important to supporters. I don't know. It depends what sort of role you've got. I think the club and the AFL in general now have got a better handle on that. There's more psychology support. There's more support with mental health. There's assistant coaches coming out their ears, and they've got really good mentors. I don't know. Don't yell over the fence too harsh at them. Don't critique what's going on, because these guys like Mateus and Caminiti and all these guys, people forget that they're 18, 19, 20 years old, right? They probably don't even know how to order a meal at a restaurant, let alone the scrutiny that they get. And I get that they're in the spotlight and they don't have to be there. They're there on work ethic and talent. But what you see for 2 hours on the weekend, and for them to be scrutinised and champion data and all the stats, and mistakes are so highlighted and everyone rides the highs, but the lows are really crushing that. I think understanding that they're doing what they do and they don't ask for all this attention. They don't ask for the scrutiny. They don't ask for, for all the pressure when they're making mistakes, but there's no other, it's a unique game, right? There's no other career path that you can think of that as what are you guys doing? You're probably having a can and doing your best on the weekend, right? And no one's giving it to you for it. So I understand they're in a privileged position and that they can really benefit from it, but go easy on them and let them understand and evolve as men, first of all.
Yeah, I like that you said that they're only 18 to 20-year-old kids. Like I went to school with Marcus, and I couldn't imagine the pressure that he's had outside of year 12 compared to the pressures that I have, the little of. But yeah, they are only kids at the end of the day, and at the end of the day, it is only football. You can only go there to watch and support the team in whatever way you can.
Yeah, and I get members and supporters, and I sat on the couch on Sunday getting frustrated about the wins loss, because you get hyped up in it, right? And that's the team you support, and I get the passion, and that's what you need. But yeah, just remember that they're doing their best, and the small amount that I've had to do with these guys, the academy kids, they're really good people. They're great. They're going to evolve into great masculine men, and they're learning some good traits, and they're actually having to learn really fast to be able to perform and do what they do. So a little bit of patience, and that'll go a long way in their well-being, I reckon.
Yep. Maybe instead of yelling at players over the boundary, maybe we should just stick to yelling at the umpires.
Yeah. Look, I was away for I think everyone goes out of the game, and unless you go into it in a coaching capacity or in the inner sanctum, and I didn't do that. I went away from the game, and then I've been interstate for the last 5 years. I didn't see many live games, and this year, I'm a supporter. I love the place. I'm a St Kilda man through and through. And then you go to the games, you actually sit. I was sitting there having a beer with a couple of mates just at Marvel Stadium, standing up behind the fence with the punters, and some of the stuff you hear out of people's mouths directed at our own players is just like, wow. Like, they're actually humans out there. Like, give us a spell. Like, I tapped the bloke on the shoulder the other day. I said, mate, how's your life going, really? If you're going to say that and criticise someone and say those things about someone that's out there in the arena having a crack, it really surprised me. But I get it. It's a passionate game. People's ups and downs and how they feel about themselves are riding on the outcome of the game. But yeah, some of the stuff I was just shocked to hear.
Yeah. From Jordan, I know, has just started umpiring AFL, and I've refed basketball for the better part of 5-6 years. And yeah, even at junior sport, it's a bit appalling what some people dare to say out their mouth. But switching gears to maybe, or hopefully, a little bit of a lighter note, Johnny wants to know what the best sledge you ever received, heard, or gave was.
I wasn't really in the banter because I didn't think I was going that well enough to to give a couple, but apparently I've heard that Rob Murphy got rattled one day. That I think the Dogs were up and about that 09, 8, 9 era, 10 that we played in prelims was sort of going head to head, and I said, "What are you doing, mate? You got a head like a chewed minty," and it rattled him, and then he kicked out from full back and he took off, and I screamed at someone. I said, "Mate, get on the minty," and he just played his head. So I didn't even really consciously probably mean that or remember it, but yeah, he gave me credit for that.
So that's a unique one.
That's awesome chat. That's actually awesome chat. Chris wants to know who your favourite teammate was on and off the field.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I was fortunate enough to play in an era where there was a lot of good characters and a lot of good players, and had a really solid group of teammates for those years. I don't think I really have a favourite, but Stevie Baker, as I mentioned before, was first picked. He's probably the funniest man I've ever come across. And him and Bakes, him and Stevie Milne get together. They're like a comedy act, and and that was so reliable. I was fortunate enough. I'll tell my grandkids that I played with Rui. Never seen someone prepare and be so committed to the cause, and to have a front row seat for his career and watch what he did on the ground. And there's Lenny Hayes, and then early days it was Hamill and Garrick and Rob Harvey. I'm loving it now, that being back there, and not that I have a lot to do, but you see him every now and then, and I can remember sitting in meetings, when you're 18, 19-year-old kid, and staring at Rob Harvey going, "That's Rob Harvey. He just won a couple of Brownlows a couple of years ago. What am I doing in the same room?" So, if you look back, I was really fortunate to play with some great players and great characters that and great people. I think so. I can't really single one out. And I forgot my little mate Joey Montagna, actually. He's vertically challenged, skinny little legs, and a kid from the northern suburbs. And to see what he did, we lived together for a long time, Joey and I, and to see the determination and the grit and the willpower that he put in, and the dedication to his career, and now doing what he's doing. So he was a fantastic teammate and a lifelong mate.
Yeah, awesome. You said there were so many characters that you looked up to, especially in your early days. Tony and Melinda want to know what it was like wearing Stewie Lowe's number. I think early on in your career you wore number 24 up until you got the 23. Is that correct?
Yeah, got 24 when I was drafted, and then and Lowe retired at the end of my second year, maybe. Such a stature of the game, and a big presence around the club, and was fortunate enough, and he presented the jumper to me after his last game on the ground, which was a huge honour. And it's a great number regardless of who wore it. 23 is just a nice round number. And I always used to, Lowe wrote a message on the inside of my locker that first day of pre-season. After he gave it to me, I opened it up, and here's this message in permanent text there. And I felt really honoured to be able to do that. And I always looked at the number before I put it on, and knew I was carrying some sort of legacy. But he always said, "Mate, make it your own." And I think probably towards the end, I grew into it and made it my own. And it was a great honour.
Yeah, of course. Jackie Bytel gets to carry on that legacy of the 23. So hopefully he's able to step up and do some big things. He is still a young boy, and he's got his whole AFL career ahead of him.
Yeah, he's a good kid, Jack. And I've got that little bond with him that he's we've worn the same number. But hopefully he can do what he can do now, and his body gives him a spell, and he's a hard worker, and he obviously can play the game. So. He gets a bit of luck and a bit of continuity in the game, and I think that's that small bond that that you share. You know, like I took my young bloke into the rooms a couple of years ago, and he's got the 23 on, and you know, Jack's good enough to come up and sign the jumper, and it's, you know, it's only a number, but it's a cool little bond that you share.
Yeah, I guess it's very different to the American style retiring your number. It's a legacy passed through generations. You see, obviously, Lenny Hayes with the number 7. Now it's with Naz, and there's been a lot of players, Nicky Winmar as well, to wear 7. So it's cool to see it move through the generations.
Yeah, every club's got them, right? Like there's only 40 odd numbers, so you're going to see it over the generations, and there are numbers tied to different clubs. You know, like you can probably pick every club, and there's a standout number that champions have worn, and it's a significant figure in our game. I guess it's a unique thing. It's pretty cool.
Yep. All right, we'll switch gears from numbers for a second. Cozzy, John's wanting to know who your favourite player was to play against.
As in who I could beat, or like was the most challenging, or it's a pretty rounded question. Look, I really enjoyed playing against Matty Scarlett. Not that I had a huge any success against him, but you know, he was just, you learnt so much from those great players. You know, Matty Scarlett and Brian Lake and Benny Rutten towards the end were always good to come up against because they brought the best out in you. And yeah, it wasn't good fun because you knew you were in for a big day. But Matty Scarlett, like he wasn't a big man as a player, but you know, his speed and his smarts were always a challenge. So it was always a good thing, you know. And I got to stand him in a grand final, I guess that you remember those times. You remember the good players you got to test yourself against.
Yeah. Sorry, just switching. Sorry, I'm not good at this transitioning stuff. Dale wants to know what the strangest question you got asked by a draft recruiter was.
Strangest question. I can't really remember the questions. That was back in the draft day camps. I can remember being at the draft camp and there was a Collingwood St Kilda were, you know, I think they had the first 3 picks. And I think it was pretty well known that it was going to sort of be Alan Didak and Rue and myself and Lawrence Angwood, and there was sort of a top few that were going to be top 5. And I can remember Mick Malthouse coming in and talking to the Collingwood guys and said, "G'day Mick, how you going?" And he's something. And I said, "Oh, I'm from Brocklesby." I said, "Do you know where that is?" And he goes, "Sit down, mate. I know everything is." Like, back in the box pretty quick.
Yeah, I can't remember whose podcast it was on, but Clayton Oliver, I think it was. He went into the Sydney Recruiters, the interview for the Sydney Recruiters, and I think the first thing they said was, "You're looking a bit tubby. You need to drop the keggers." And I don't know, apparently he was still only a skinny boy back then, but that was his sort of humbled moment when he got to the AFL process.
Yeah, that was probably genius as it's sowing the seed, right, to see who's going to react.
Yeah, I guess you need those tough nuts on the first or second day to see where you're going to sit for the rest of the season, I guess.
Yeah.
Justin, you mentioned you keep in touch with Stevie Baker and Milne, but Tony Melinda are wanting to know if there's any of the other boys that you still keep in touch with.
Most of them. Most of the guys I played with, and sort of my role now back at the Frawley Centre is to do with, like, I'm on the past players committee, so you know, organising past players events and you know, reunions and this sort of stuff. So I get to touch base with our generation and, you know, the other generations before. But our group is a really special group, and it's really tight. From the, you know, towards the end, the 8-9 prelim, grand final. 8, 9, 10 era, you know, we get together once a year on prelim day at the end of September, and there's 20 or 30 blokes there. So fortunate enough to get to keep in touch with a lot of guys, and, that really close mates like Joey and Rue and Lenny and Bakes and Stevie Milne and Sam Fisher and, all these guys. We're a tight group. You hear people talk about premierships and the bond and the tightness of it you get. And I get that. I didn't get to experience it, and I get what they've got. But sometimes you hear them that they don't really keep in touch. They've achieved something. But our group was really galvanised. I don't know why. It was a respect thing. We certainly can look at each other in those grand finals and say that, nobody didn't give their best effort. So there's a level of respect there. No one's pointing the finger at, you did this and you should have done that, and why didn't we win it? So there is a great bond, and fortunate enough to speak to a lot of the guys that I played with.
Yeah, I would like to know, is there still a bit of a group, like a group WhatsApp or a group messengers chat that still goes around?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, it's quite entertaining.
I'm sure.
Who's the most active in it?
Michael Gardner brings the show to life. Like, it might go silent for a couple of weeks, and then we hear from the big show, and it sort of gets legs for a couple of days. So he's probably the captain of the past players message group.
Right, that's not the player I would have had in mind. I would have thought it'd be someone like Milne or Bakes that was sort of running the show on the WhatsApp. So that's great insight.
Yeah, no, those boys contribute, but Gardy always lights the fire, and off we go.
Yep. Just to summarise the unfiltered fisherman's comment, because it is quite a big one. He wants to know what drove you to just have your eye on the footy and know where the ball was when it's going to land in your hands going up for marks.
What drove me? Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's a competitive instinct. That to me was the best feeling you could have on a footy field. It was like, I don't know. I guess I grew up in the country and I think I played under 14s when I was a 9-year-old, just because that there wasn't grades. Like, we didn't have an under 9s and 10s and 11s and 12s. So you sort of had to play. When I was 9, I had to play against 14-year-olds, and then we didn't have a third. So as soon as you finish 14s, you go straight into senior footy. So I got to play against bigger bodies and whatever. So I think the physical nature of it came pretty naturally. But I love the feeling of just keeping your eye on the ball and whatever there was going through, and it was probably my detriment and teammates' detriment sometimes, but run through the ball and land on the ground with your hands around it was the best feeling. Like, someone else can kick the goal, but it was just it was a great feeling. And you know what? I was probably no good at anything else. So if the ball hit the deck, I was probably a liability. I couldn't do anything. So I reckon I stuck to that. If I could mark it, I could contribute.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I'm not sure about liability, Cozzy. I'm sure you're more versatile than you give yourself credit for. We might let you go in a minute or two. You've been talking for quite some time. I'm sure you deserve a break. But just before, Max and I might just ask one more question each. Cozzy, what was the best moment you had at St Kilda, on or off the field, that you can remember?
Best moment. There was a few. I think it all comes down to on-field. There's a lot of off-field stuff. We had a lot of good times and a lot of bad times. I think shape the good times, make you resilient. So you can't be resilient without adversity, right? So there's all these little things that make you resilient. And I think that team grew to be a resilient, well-grounded, with good culture that, 09 and 10, was at our peak. The best on-field feeling, I guess, was the 09 prelim. And, we lost I played in losing prelims in 3 and 4. And then, it took a couple of years to climb the mountain again, lost in 08 to Hawthorn. And then 09, when we beat the Dogs and the siren goes and you're up, and that feeling of, okay, we've gone to the next level. You know, I'm going to play in the big dancer next week. That's probably the best feeling I've had after a game. You know, and the feeling of running out and representing your club in the grand final. I know we didn't get the result, but they're pretty cool.
Yeah, awesome. And I asked this question to Bakes as well, and I guess it might be a very different answer coming from you, because you guys did have different ways you got into the AFL system. Obviously, you being the number 2 pick, and Bakes was something like 27. What's your advice to some of the younger guys, you know, those 16 to 18-year-olds that are looking to break into the AFL system? What advice can you give to them?
As far as getting recruited?
As far as getting recruited and I don't know, I guess at their NAB leagues and playing for Sandy Dragons or Oakley Chargers, whatever it may be, like what can they do to sort of put themselves in the front foot or the driver's seat to be selected by an AFL team?
Look, I think the pathways are pretty good now. Like there's nutrition. They come in, the kids they're immaculate. You know, and from my experience, only coming back this year and seeing these guys, they've got great manners, they've got good morals. You know, they've been taught nutrition. Mate, when I come through, I was 17. I was drinking 6 cans after the game playing senior footy. Like, you know, and you get thrown into this world. But they're groomed. But I would say learn how to win your own ball. Like that's the crux of the game, right? Like a contested bull is always going to get a look in. I know skill and decision making and all this is a big part of it, but if you can't win your own ball and be a contested player at some stage, you're probably not going to get too much of a look in. There's role players and whatever, but I think, you know, if I was talking to a 16, 17, 18-year-old, I'd be like, just learn how to put your head over the ball, learn how to go back and do the team things and win a contested ball. And then, you know, pure talent after that will take over and give you a chance.
Awesome. Thank you for that insight.
Well, pressure player, like there's even a proper stat now.
Yeah.
And there's a pressure meter like 190 to 100. Who knows how the bloody hell they measure that? But it is like it wins and loses game. Like it's a pressure cauldron out there, you know, and that's probably the test of time. There's no premiership team or any good team that weren't a good, harassing, tackling, tough, hard team. It's a contested game. So if they can be a part of that, they give themselves every chance.
I'm not even sure that Fox Footy know how their pressure meter works on the 190 it's so confusing. But we might leave it there. Cozzy, thank you very much for your time. It's greatly appreciated by us and by the fans as well. You've been an absolute joy to have on the show, giving us great insights. I've personally had a lot of fun, you know, getting to meet one of my childhood heroes. I'm sure Max has as well, and I'm sure all the people out there who also had you as a childhood hero or, you know, as just a hero in general. Just very thankful for your time here today.
Absolute pleasure, boys, and good luck with what you're doing. And then in a couple of years' time, when you've busted into the world and you're doing something like the front bar and you've actually made it, just remember us, eh?
Yep, exactly right. We will try and keep our lids on for as long as possible.
Good on you.
Thank you, Cozzy.
Thanks, Cozzy.
Awesome. What a treat that was, Saners. So that's been a few now, Jordan. We've got the I don't know, we've had Bakes on, we've had GT on, and hopefully there's a few more of the old playing group to make an appearance later on in the year.
Yep, wouldn't that be nice? That was just, I'm still amazed at how well Cozzy, not just, getting to meet one of your favourite players growing up, but how well he spoke as well. That was just unbelievable to me. Just real maturity in his answers, and just gave some answers I wasn't really expecting. I was just blown away by. Not sure about you, Max, but great to have him on. And certainly, if there's any other, Milne, I know, is a fan of Saints TV. Stephen, if you want to hop on down and join follow in the footsteps of your old buddies, I would be more than happy to take you on. I noticed a couple of comments about getting G-Train on, getting Jason Blake, Lenny Hayes. Get G-Train on. Lenny Hayes, I think, is a bit unavailable. He's a bit busy at the moment with coaching, but we'll try our best to get who we can. Let's talk about GWS, Max.
Yes, let's talk about GWS. Let's try and contain ourselves now. Get onto the GWS preview, potential ins and outs. We sort of discussed a couple of them before. Obviously, Tim Membry will miss with the concussion protocols, and I believe steals the test with that knee injury that knee knock he copped in Sunday's contest.
And obviously the big. Sorry, you go ahead.
I was just going to ask who do you think's the ones to come in and replace them?
Well, I think there's this guy. He's had a coronation recently. I'm not sure if that was related or not. Talking about the new king. He might be available for this game. I'm sure you know who. All of us know who I'm referencing here at the moment. Max King. I would love it if he comes back. It seems more likely than not at this stage. I'm not sure if we've got an official update anywhere. Not that I'm aware of. But I believe he's due to come back in, so definitely will be needed against a GWS defence featuring Harry Himmelberg, who's also been in good form recently. But yeah, he could come back in. Webster also is a chance. Did he play? He played at Sandy last week, did he?
Yeah, believe so. Just an update on King. He has been updated to a test on the St Kilda injury list, and Dan McKenzie's 1 to 2 weeks away. I think they're the next two guys to come off the injury list. And yes, Webster, I do believe, played VFL last week. Again, that triumphant win against, I can't remember who it was, but whoever it was.
I think it was Port Melbourne or some
Port Melbourne. That sounds,
some of the Minnows team. Marcus had a good game, apparently. 36 touches, 3 goals. Seemed to dominate based off those stats. Do you reckon he's a chance to come back in this week?
Yeah, the boys on the podcast were really, really hyping him up, saying that's a statement game. That's sort of one that you say, I'm up for selection now. I'm ready to break into the best 22, not as a medical sub, but as a best 18 player. I think if Steele's rested or if he's managed for injury or whatever have you be, he's up for selection. I also think Webster's up. Maybe Paddo's needing a bit of a break, or I don't know what's up with that, but he just doesn't look to be fully firing this year to the extent that we know he could in 2020 before the leg break. So yeah, I think maybe it's King back in, it's Windhager back in, and potentially Jimmy Webster if they want to make a third change in pattern, but I can't see them making more than 2 to 3 changes. Otherwise, you'd be really rejigging the list a little bit too much.
Yeah, and I think it's important to keep in mind, all those talking about it. Well, Tim Membry will obviously miss this week. What's his name? Ben Patton. People have been criticising him, but we're in such a good spot. You said to us at the start of this year that we'd be 6-3. I'd tell you, get off your meds. You're off your meds. But yeah, we're in a fortunate position to have guys like Marcus. Marcus isn't even in the team, and Jimmy Webster. So I think we can probably cool it with the criticism that we're giving some of these guys, and just remind ourselves that we're in a really fortunate position. The GWS midfield, that's probably going to be our toughest matchup on Sunday at 4:40. Their midfield is, as Max describes it, pretty lethal. Yes. They've obviously got Tom Green, Stephen Cornelio, Kelly and Toby Green, who rotates through the midfield. I had the privilege of watching GWS and the Dogs at Manuka Oval a couple of weeks ago, and boy, did their midfield look good. So that'll be a huge battle for Ross, Steele, Crouch to win. Yeah,
I think the advantage we've got though is that I think his name's Matt Flynn. It's definitely Flynn. I'm pretty sure it's Matt. Is the GWS ruckman. So you hope this is a big game for Rowan Marshall. We've just spoken to Cozzy, who has been sort of mentoring Rowan Marshall a little bit throughout his time at St Kilda. But yeah, it's Marshall has gotten into some really good form over the last 2 or 3 weeks. He's now playing at that All-Australian level that we wanted him to be coming into this season. It might have taken him a few weeks and maybe I think just comparing him to those Tim Englishes and Gawns and Jared Witts, all them who have been playing at such a high level this year. Now we've been able to see Rowan Marshall as they've sort of dropped off a little bit. So, yeah, big game for Rowan Marshall to sort of assert his dominance. And then I guess our midfield, if we can get first crack at the footy, that can only benefit us going forward.
Yeah, I feel pretty confident about this game despite what happened last week. I remember last year in round 5, we had Rowan. That was the game, unfortunately, where Jack Hayes did his ACL and Rowan also went off with, I believe, with a corky or a thigh or something. So we had to put Josh Battle on the ruck. I think Matt Flynn won 62. He had 62 hitouts that game. Yep. And we still won by 3 goals, which we should have won by more. Had Max King not kicked 1 goal 7, but that's the way it goes. So yeah, I'm pretty confident going into this game. That can be my one word. That we always ask. Confident. Max, what's your one word, and viewers as well?
Look, I'll let the comments filter through. It might be a little bit early for that just yet. There might be a couple more things we want to say, but Sainers, just as we're rambling on a little bit, just comment one word how you're feeling for Sunday's contest, and then we'll sort of wrap it up in the next 2-3 minutes or so. The only thing I think I want to say, Jordan, is we are still not mentioned a lot of players coming through. We've got Jack Billings still up, has been putting his hand up for selection. He's still yet to break into the side. Jack Hayes is still coming off the injury list, who I think is going to be lethal coming back into this Ross Lyon side. But the biggest thing I want to see is Ross Lyon. This is his sort of week to really show us, or remind us, I guess, you are a premiership level coach, or you're a grand final level coach. The way he's going to be able to swing a 40, 50 point loss into having these boys as motivated as can be going into Greater Western Sydney on Sunday.
Yep. We'll just go through a couple of the viewer comments. Guys comfortable. Reese is cautiously optimistic. I feel like that's more than one word. Darren is excited. The unfiltered fisherman is horny. Yeah, not sure what to make of that one, mate. Marcelo is nervous. Mr. DJ Rude Boy, who continues to have the funniest name in our stream, says swing the axe again. I'm not sure, whether you went to primary school or not, but that is 3 words, Mr. Rude Boy. I changed to nervous. Okay, fair enough, mate. Guess you did pass primary school after all.
The unfiltered fisherman says serious. Oh, sorry. He says serious. Need to adjust and quickly. And you couldn't be more right. Even the North Melbourne win was a little bit unconvincing, but it was nevertheless a 30-point win. I back Ross Lyon in to get these boys up and about 100%.
Yep, Adam says reflective, and Naga reckons when it's a percentage boosting game. Scoreline prediction, Maxi, hit me.
Oh, sorry. Oh, am I going to escape the one word of the week?
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize you didn't have one, but go ahead.
Damn, I've done this to myself. I did have a word. In the back of my head. I've completely blanked now that the spotlight's on me.
Guys, he is indeed lying to you. He did not have a word prepared for this week, as per usual.
I don't want to hear it, Jordan, because we've still got up on our little thread. We haven't adjusted the responses from last week against when we previewed the Crom. As Jordan wants to quickly change his in the thread.
We should probably talk about the Crom, the use of the term Crom, because I noticed a couple of comments last time. So the Crom basically, I think it was a Facebook comment in 2018. Some old guy wrote Crom instead of autocorrected to Crom when he was writing Go Crows. So autocorrected to that, and people just took the piss out of him. And it's become somewhat of a cult figure. Somewhat of a cult. The Crom. That's what people, I guess in our generation, refer it to as. Even Jake referred to them as the Crom in his post pre-game. So yeah, if you're not familiar with the term Crom, welcome to 2023, and this is what we call the Crows now. Beth says Crom from eyes. I like that. I love it. Fun.
I just saw Beth say, sorry, Maxi, I was making you a set. I know, Beth. I'm trying to find that link to the all the words that you sent us the other week when I was struggling to find the one word.
Yeah,
to
Beth,
say
you might have to send Max the wheel just pre-show each week just to remind him. Look, the Unfiltered Fisherman reckons we put 20% cocaine in the water at RSCA Park. I'd say no because we don't want to turn out like Jack Ginnivan. Moving on, let's kick on finally with the scoreline prediction. I'm going to give up on your word for how you're feeling this week.
Yeah, that's probably I'll give up on me.
Let's go with the scoreline prediction.
Look, I reckon low scoring contest back at GWS. I don't think Ross will want to have more than, I guess 80 points kicked on him this week. So we'll go 65 GWS and 78 St Kilda.
I'm going to go GWS 62, St Kilda 108. I reckon we come out with a response. Oh, look at this acronym. Cron, can Ross optimize Max? I love it. Yes, that is a good question, Francis. I hope that he can. If Max is a good chance to return, it seems. But yeah, hopefully we don't become too king-centric and, model our game all around, feed it down his throat. Hopefully we maintain some of the unpredictability that we've had in the past couple of weeks. Naga reckons Saints by 41. Adam Styles Saints by, he's testing my maths here, 18.
That would be 18 points.
Yeah. Chris Williams, 29-point win. Yep.
There was a few posted before. Guy thinks Saints by 44. Darren thinks 85 to 46 St Kilda's way. Reese 95, 67 Giants. I'm not even going to pull up Mr. DJ's Rude Boy's comment. He said Saints 62, GWS 102. So none of that. We want the Saints win.
Alrighty. Well, last question. Okay.
All right, and another one. Can Rowan outscore Marks? That was sorry. I read that a little bit better than it probably was. Sorry, Adam.
I'm very confused at what this means. Can Rowan outscore Marks?
And Rowan
score more goals than he takes marks.
You know what? I'll change it. Can Rowan outscore Matt or Matt Flynn on like the Super Coach and fantasy?
Maybe, yeah. Can Rowan out tap Flynn?
Well, that's not promise.
Outdo. Oh, fuck.
Anyway, Sainers.
Whatever. I'm very tired, as you can tell. It's been a big day for Jordan. Player to have a big game, Maxi. Hit me.
Hit you. That's a bit hard. Player to have a big game. Or I don't want to say someone that we've been saying the last couple of weeks. I've got a tingling feeling about Filippo.
Justin says he doesn't want to say a player that we've said the past couple of weeks. He goes and says Filippo.
That's why I'm changing it. You know what? I reckon if Marcus Windhager's selected, he's going to have 25 touches and 10 tackles, something like that.
Yep. For me, this is the Josh Battle game. I reckon the defense was under fire last week, didn't have the best game, but I reckon he'll stand up where needed. He'll take, the intercept marks that he always does. I feel like they'll probably, send, Callum Wilkie will be sent to Jesse Hogan. So maybe he'll have his hands full there, Callum Wilkie. I know Jesse Hogan's a bit underrated at the moment. He's been in some good form. He certainly looked very good when I watched him against the Dogs. But yeah, my tingling feeling is that Josh Battle will have a big game. All right, we shall leave it there, Sainers.
Yep, just before we go, finally got a good acronym. Can Rowan out-jump Machito?
I'm not sure anyone can out-jump Machito Owens at the moment, but he is in some fine form.
Yeah, and on that note, we'll leave it there. Saying just a reminder to check out the podcast and Jake's other weekly videos if you haven't already. There are big things brewing that even Jordan and I don't know about that the boys leaked on the podcast last night. So definitely go give that a watch.
Yep, I didn't even know that there was something leaked because I haven't watched the podcast for this week. But Looking forward to listening to it then. I'm excited to go listen to it after this. But as always, thank you guys for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday night and have a great week.
Go the Saints.
See you guys next time.
It's out.